What's going on, everybody? JaangoPops here with some news on the new Pokemon Direct that came, I believe, on Wednesday of this past week. I watched it earlier on my own time, which is why I'm not doing a formal reaction to it like I would usually do with these types of things. But that's completely fine. I don't want to delay the intro any longer because I'm very excited about this game as well. Let's just get right into it. So, I'm trying to remember exactly how it went. If I'm not mistaken, at the very beginning of the trailer, the direct I should say, they played a trailer. And that trailer had some small interesting things, but I'm going to save all of that to the end, until the end, excuse me. Let me get into the new information that they went over formally first, and then I'll get to all of that a bit later. So the new Pokemon, I think that's the first thing that they showed right after the trailer, or they talked about formally right after the trailer. The new Pokemon, those being Wooloo, it's a sheep Pokemon, Gossiflower, flower Pokemon, Eldegoss, the Cotton Bloom Pokemon, Dreadnought, the Bite Pokemon, and Corviknight, the Raven Pokemon. All of those I'll show up on screen in just a moment. But one of the things that I was gonna save for later, but I might as well say it now, is Eldegoss is actually the evolution of Gossiflower, so that's pretty neat. They showed off the evolution for Gossiflower already announcing it, but they didn't actually end up showing any of the second evolutions for the starter Pokemon. They haven't shown any of those off yet, so not exactly sure what they're going to do with that at this current point in time. But moving along here, it goes into the wild area, and the wild area seems like it's not a replacement for Roots, but a different sort of approach to Roots, if you will. So basically, it's the way they talked about it in the trailer. It's not exactly in the center, but it connects different towns and cities, so it kind of works like a Root would, but it's more focused on catching different types of Pokemon, because if you know, like in regular Pokemon games, if you go to a certain route, you'll find certain Pokemon and certain Pokemon types easier. But it seems like in the wild area, you'll be able to get a large variety of different Pokemon. These Pokemon are actually walking around on the ground and in the water and in the air. You can see them, like their models actually there, like in, what was it, Let's Go, Pokemon Let's Go, the only other Pokemon game on the Switch, which is why it was kind of interesting to people if they were going to carry that over to Gen 8, because Let's Go is currently the only Pokemon game on the Switch, and then this one is coming out this year, and it will be the only other one. So it's interesting to see that they brought over the mechanic of having the Pokemon actually be invisible. Then right after that, I get into the new feature of the 8th generation called Dynamaxing. Dynamax is a similar sort of feature that to the Mega Evolutions in Gen 6 and the Z moves in Gen 7. For a limited time, once per battle, just like Mega Evolutions, Pokemons become stronger and larger. Literally, like larger in size. I'll have a picture of it up here somewhere. Different for Mega Evolutions, though, is this can only be used for 3 turns. So the Pokemon, I think even in other people's cases, like if you can use this casually in battles, like trainer battles, you are only able to have it for 3 turns, and then the Pokemon just automatically reverts back. So that's interesting and makes it a bit different from Mega Evolutions there. Seem to have sort of stat or move boost. You can't exactly tell just from the trailer itself, but I think what they were saying is these moves, like if you look in the there's a part where it says something like Max Lightning, Max Guard, Max Knuckle, and Max Strike. So I think these are actually all moves for the Pokemon. but instead of having them be just the regular, like, Thunderbolt, it's actually a different move that changes and can have like different effects if you're in the Dynamax state. And these moves also have a limit, like power points do on regular Pokemon moves, which is why it may be just moves, or maybe it's like a stat boost that you can decide for yourself. But judging on what they actually said, I'm pretty sure it's just a different type of move. And then right after they showed off Dynamaxing, they showed a new gameplay feature, a new multiplayer feature actually too, called Dynamax Raid Battles. I think they're actually called Raid Battles, but Max Raid Battles, excuse me. But these battles will take up to, I'm not sure if 4 players are required or if it's up to 4 players, but either way, it'll take up to 4 players, and all 4 of these players, 3 including yourself, will take on a wild Pokemon who is Dynamaxed, and that Pokemon is Dynamaxed for the entire duration of the fight. So in the way that a trainer can Dynamax their Pokemon, but only has that 3-turn limit and can only do it once per battle, in Dynamax Raid Battles, the Pokemon that you're actually battling against will be Dynamaxed for the entire duration of it. I'm not sure if this is particular to the Dynamax Pokemon in the Raid Battles, or if this is just a Dynamax feature, but they did mention that Dynamaxing gives exclusive moves. That might just be exclusive moves for the actual bosses that you're going to go up against, but we will have to wait and see for more information on that. Of the 4 players, you and 3 other friends of yours, you can only choose one person to Dynamax their Pokemon, and I'm pretty sure it works in the same way, where you can only Dynamax once a match, and you can only Dynamax for 3 turns. So there'll be some strategy and some communication necessary in order to have a more successful battle against these Dynamax bosses. And then they showed off that you can actually catch Dynamax Pokemon. It's strange because, at least to my knowledge, well, one, there's actually a choice. I don't know if I have the screenshot for it. I hope I do, and it's somewhere up here now. But there's actually a choice between catching the Dynamax Pokemon or not. So maybe if you don't catch it, you'll have some other sort of bonus or something like that. Not too sure yet, but they didn't show exactly what Dynamaxing Pokemon does. However, they did mention that in order to have certain Pokemon appear, you will have to beat them in a Dynamax battle. So maybe when you, let's say if you were to catch a Weavile, I think that was one of the Dynamax raid bosses actually. If you were to fight and catch a Weavile with your friends, in your game and all 3 of your friends' game, Weaviles, like smaller Weaviles that you can actually catch and use in battle regularly, will start to spawn in the wild area. I think that's what it's kind of alluding to. Again, there's not exactly super clear information on what catching Dynamax Pokemon does and what exactly it means to have those Pokemon who are special to Dynamax battles who you can only catch after beating them. But we will have to see, wait on more information for that specifically. And these Dynamax raid battles are found in the wild area, and the Pokemon that you will face in the wild area will depend on the weather and other conditions of the area you're in. In the trailer, I think it's in the trailer that they showed at the beginning, and just generally when they were talking about the wild area, they actually showed off multiple different places. There was a grasslands, sort of a rocky terrain location, and then there was a bit of a snowy location, stuff like that. So there's going to be different locations and terrains for you to find Pokemon in the wildland. There'll be different ones all around the region, and you'll be able to find different Dynamax Pokemon as well as just regular Pokemon that you can catch and use. And the Dynamax raid battles are a online and offline multiplayer experience. You can play it online with friends or offline. I'm almost positive it's going to be sort of like, it could be on one Switch, but I would imagine it more like you're not playing online, you're just playing in person with 3 other people that also have the game and a Switch. But it's also possible that it's going to be more of a, like, everyone gets a controller and controls a character and certain Pokemon sort of thing. But that is also yet to be seen. And playing online with your friends will require a Switch Online account. And then right after they talked about Dynamaxing and the Dynamax raid battles, they got into some of the new characters. They actually showed off the Galar League champion. He is named Leon. Leon has a younger brother who you will meet at the beginning of your journey named Hop. And Hop, obviously, will be one of your rivals. There is Professor Magnolia, the professor of the God region, obviously. And then Sonia, who is Magnolia's granddaughter and her assistant. And that's about that for the new characters. And then they mentioned, actually wait, there's the grass type gym leader. His name is Milo. It's not made super clear whether or not he's the first gym leader, but it's fair to assume that he is. But even if he's not, he's one of the gym leaders and he will be a grass type leader. And then small bit of information on the Pokemon gyms is the Pokemon during gym battles can be Dynamaxed not only by yourself but also by the gym leader themselves. So that'll be interesting to see. And now we are getting into the additional small details or additional random details that didn't really have too much of a place in my opinion, but I still wanted to go over. So as you can see from the thumbnail, and probably just throw it up here too, it will be releasing worldwide on November 15th. The Pokemon gyms, at least Milo's Pokemon gym, which they actually showed off, look like football stadiums, soccer if you're in America, but they look like soccer stadiums and they're called gyms again. That's a small minor detail, but in Gen 7, just before this one, Sun and Moon that being, they weren't called gyms. I think they were called trials or something like that. Can't remember exactly, but they weren't gyms in the previous generation. Amori, who is there with Matsuda talking about the game, both from Game Freak, mentions that Hop is one of your rivals. Again, that's just a small detail, but I think it entails that there will be more than one rival, and we'll be meeting some more characters who are going to be rivals of yours on your journey, maybe later down the line. Let me see here. The first trailer, like the very first one that they showed before they actually started talking about the game itself, shows multiple cities and towns, and very small moment, but there seemed to be some sort of like Pokemon-y interaction with Sobble. Can't remember. Gen 6. It was Gen 6. X and Y, that being, where you could actually interact with your Pokemon, and I think it made them stronger, or maybe that was the training thing. I'm not too sure, but there was something in Gen 6 called Pokemon-y, where you could interact with your Pokemon directly, and it looked like there may have been something similar with Sobble in that first trailer. It could be wrong, but I think that's what that was. And then we have, so the bikes, actually, I don't know, I can't tell if it's the same bike. I was trying to see this in the trailer, but it looks like possibly you get one bike, and this bike can not only be ridden on land but also in shallow water. Not sure if it's the same bike. Again, maybe you'll have to have 2 different bikes for it, but either way, on shallow water you are able to ride a bike, which is interesting. And then there's this mechanic in the wild area where you seem to like call Pokemon towards you, like kind of attract them by whistling or making some sort of noise. You can't really see it from just the picture, but if you actually look in the direct during the I can't remember if it's during the wildland area or if it's during the trailer that they showed at the beginning, but either way, if you look at it during that portion, he actually whistles. There's a question mark above, I forgot what the Pokemon's name is. It's the previous form from Bearware, I think. But either way, there's a question mark above their head, and then it comes towards you out of the grass. So maybe there's going to be some sort of feature where you call over Pokemon, and that's how you can catch some of them, or maybe you just call them over and then battle them. Not too sure just yet. Oh, that's another thing that I actually didn't mention, but I don't really think I needed to mention it, considering the very first trailer showing Sword and Shield actually showed this off beforehand. But this game will, unlike Let's Go, reintegrate wild Pokemon battles. So in order to catch Pokemon, you'll have to battle them, get them weak, and then throw a Pokeball at them. It wasn't shown off if there's going to be motion controls, however. In Let's Go, you can use it's not really an option. You use the Joy-Cons or any other of the controls that have motion controls. I believe you can use the Pro Controller and the Pokeball that comes with the game in certain editions. But anyways, you use motion controls to actually throw the Pokeball, and then if you catch Pokemon, you do. If you don't, you don't, and then you try it again. It's not clear whether or not that will be returning in this one, but there's definitely traditional wild Pokemon battles and catching methods, although I don't believe you will have to like walk around in the grass in order to find them. It's not super duper clear if that's just a wild area thing where the Pokemon are above the grass, you can actually see them walking around, or if that's going to be a consistent thing throughout the entire game. But either way, it's clear that there are at least some portions of the game where the Pokemon will be visible walking around, and you can catch the ones that you want to by walking up to them. In addition to the Pokemon walking around in the wild area, they actually are just like around in the towns. There's a couple screenshots where they're just like there with people in the towns. Not a huge deal or anything, not really a huge interesting feature, but it does add a little bit more life to the world, which is nice. They showed off the evolution screen when they showed that Eldegoss evolves from Gossiflower. They showed off what the evolution screen looks like. Also not a huge deal, but I just thought that was interesting. In the wild area, there are actually free camera controls. I'm sure as everyone knows, if you played a Pokemon game, even in the more recent 3D Pokemon games, you control your character and where they walk and how they walk. But in almost every segment, there's no real camera controls. So the camera is kind of static while your character can move around in the 3D setting. However, at least in the wild area, from what they've shown, there will actually be a way for you to control the camera and be able to see, like in a 3D setting all around you and maybe even above you. Which was interesting. Let's see what else we have here. The max raid battles are actually shown off in the wild area by these red beacons, so you won't have to search around for these things you don't have to search too hard for them, seeing as there will be these beacons in the wild area that are actually showing you where these things are. And I believe, I could be mistaken here, this is kind of just an assumption, but I think it's fair to say that Pokemon trainers, that being actual people online, will be walking around in the world. Because everyone, when they're going into the max raid battle in the trailer, everyone actually goes towards the red beacon. And you see it from the different perspectives of the different characters. So I think what might happen is either A, you find the max raid battle beacon, you walk towards it, press A or whatever, and then it brings you into that cutscene where all 4 of them are coming together, or you'll actually be able to interact with and see other trainers while they're walking around in the wild area with you, as long as you're connected to the internet. And if you want to go meet up with them to do a max raid battle, you all can by heading towards one of those beacons. Another small detail, not super duper interesting or important, but the Rotom phones are back. I think that was also in Gen 7. There was like, I believe Rotom's a Pokemon. I'm actually not sure, because I did not know about Rotom too much until I actually heard about how it was used in Gen 7, but there will be a sort of, not a Pokedex, I don't really know what to call it, but basically you'll be using Rotom as a sort of device to help you along with your travels. In the same way that Professor, I'm trying to remember his name now, Sycamore. Professor Sycamore was investigating the phenomenon of Mega Evolution, which was new in the Kalos region? Can't remember the name of the region, but anyways, in the same way that he was researching Mega Evolution, Magnolia is going to be researching Dynamaxing, and I'm sure you're going to be helping her out with that. And similarly, oh god, what's her name? I forgot her name. Her granddaughter, she'll also be helping you. Anyways, Corviknight, which is one of the, I hope I mentioned Corviknight, because now I can't remember if I did or not. But either way, Corviknight is actually sort of like a taxi system that goes around the Galar region. It'll fly you to locations that you've already been, and I was wondering actually if this would be a replacement for the Move Fly, because as I'm sure most people know, you'll get the Move Fly later in the game and you can use it during battles, but its main use is to have a flying Pokemon bring you back to a location that you've already been, usually to the nearest Pokemon Center. So it'll be interesting to see if you need Corviknight to go everywhere around the region, or if you'll have the choice between Corviknight and using your own Pokemon to fly. That's yet to be seen, however. Actually, another interesting thing I didn't think about is the flying animations, because the flying animations have always kind of just been like a blob that kind of looks like a bird or some flying animal, just taking you back to wherever you're going to go. But with obviously the upgrade to the Switch and the fact that Corviknight is seen in the overworld flying around in the wild area, maybe you'll have a bit more of a detailed animation. That would also just be another small interesting thing. And then the big thing about Sword and Shield, other than the release date, that being and all the new features, I should say the big Pokemon from Sword and Shield are the 2 legendaries, Zacian and, bear with me here, Zamazenta. Okay, I was afraid I was gonna mess that up, but I didn't. Okay, Zacian and now I messed it up. Zamazenta are the 2 legendary Pokemons of the Galar region. They didn't say a typing for them. That might be public information, but I'm not personally aware of it. Zacian is the Pokemon Sword legendary. He holds a sword in his mouth and has a bit more of a sleeker, like thin design, while Zamazenta has, I don't want to say like a mane, because it's not a lion, it's a wolf, I think, but it has a lot more fur, and in the very front it has a shield, so obviously it's the legendary for Pokemon Shield. And in the little cinematic that they showed off, it's not actually gameplay, but in that cinematic they're fighting against each other, and then all of a sudden they stop, and when they stop, the like leaves and the wind around them just starts to like pick up out of nowhere. So they were fighting against each other, but then seemed to like turn against a common enemy, if you will. So that could possibly be the 3rd legendary. Again, nothing definitive was shown off, but it's fair to assume that that could involve either the 3rd legendary maybe the enemy team of the Team Flare, you know, those types of groups. But that's also yet to be seen, and of course they will be important to the story. So that's all I've got for the Pokemon Direct from the 5th. I think this was a very, very good Direct, and if you haven't seen it for yourself yet, I'll be putting a link in the description to this video, and you should definitely check it out for yourself because it's very, very good. Basically gave my opinions and just like my extra thoughts while going down the list of things that I already had, so probably just cut the video here. But I would like to know what you guys are thinking and feeling about Pokemon Sword and Shield. If you saw the Direct, what your reactions were. If you think that I missed anything, tell me down in the comments below. And yeah, that's all I've got. This is actually the first time that I'm covering Pokemon Sword and Shield on the channel, but I certainly don't think it'll be the last. Obviously with E3 coming up, there may be more information, but even if there isn't, there will definitely be more information before November 15 hits, and when that new information is released, I will be reporting on it and making a video. So yeah, be sure to check back here for any more Sword and Shield information that is released. But anyways, thank you very much for watching this video. My name is JaangoPops. Tell me your thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Shield in the comments section below, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.